The lawyer's words echoed across the silent room. Everything goes to my son. Eyes widened, jaws tightened, whispers filled the air. Everyone expected a reaction: anger, shock, maybe tears. But instead, I smiled. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't pride. It was a quiet, unsettling calm. The kind that unsettled everyone who thought they had control. In that instant, the room froze. All assumptions shattered. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just smiled, and that single, subtle gesture shifted the energy. When the lawyer said my brother's name, I smiled, and that scared everyone in the room. The room was quiet, the air heavy with unspoken expectations. Father sat at the head of the polished table, his posture rigid, eyes flicking between his children with a practiced neutrality. Beside him, the golden child brother exuded effortless confidence, a smug grin playing at the corner of his lips. He had always been the one who received praise, the one whose every achievement was celebrated, while the quiet one, overlooked, patient, and careful, was expected to maintain peace and fix what was broken. Childhood. Memories flashed briefly, birthdays where one child's wishes took center stage, holidays where chores and responsibilities fell on the quiet one, and every family event subtly reinforcing the hierarchy. The invisible sacrifices, the quiet obedience, the unacknowledged efforts, they all built a silent resentment, a simmering awareness that life hadn't been fair. Sitting there, observing, the quiet one catalogued each glance, each gesture, each unspoken expectation. Every smirk from the brother, every glance from the father, told a story she had lived for years. Yet she remained composed, folding her hands neatly, letting the tension build in the room while her mind worked silently, connecting patterns she had noticed for years. I was the quiet one, but I had already seen the game they were playing. Years of subtle favoritism and invisible sacrifices had shaped every family gathering. The golden child brother always received attention, accolades, and smiles, while the quiet one, patient, intelligent, and responsible, worked behind the scenes, unnoticed and unthanked. Childhood chores, school achievements, even small gestures of kindness were expected, never celebrated. Each overlooked effort, each minimized success, quietly reinforced a hierarchy that seemed impossible to challenge. Family dinners and holidays weren't joyous occasions, they were stage for the brothers, charm and the parents' careful applause. Every suggestion the quiet one made was politely acknowledged and then ignored. Every small mistake was magnified, a lesson in restraint disguised as correction. Over time, these patterns became predictable. Manipulate subtly, reward charm, dismiss diligence. By now, she could read the signs before they happened. A glance, a tone of voice, a smirk, it all revealed the game they had been playing. For decades, the quiet one had learned the unspoken rules, had catalogued the betrayals, and had realized that patience and observation were the only tools she truly owned. Silent manipulation had followed me my whole life, but I was finally ready to notice every move. The room felt colder than the office air conditioning. Every chair, every polished surface reflected a tension that could be cut with a knife. Family members exchanged glances, whispered barely audible words, and shifted in their seats. The lawyer's thick folder rested heavily on the table, a symbol of the power they were about to witness. Eyes darted to the protagonist, measuring her reaction before the words even left the lawyer's mouth. The golden child brother leaned back confidently, a smug smile of anticipation on his face, as if he had already won. Parents tried to maintain neutrality, but the flicker of expectation betrayed them. Every subtle gesture, the clearing of a throat, the folding of hands, the glance sideways spoke volumes about unspoken power dynamics. The air crackled with suspense as the lawyer began reading. Each word was deliberate, magnifying the gravity of the moment. The protagonist felt every second stretch, every heartbeat echoing in the tense silence. Observing quietly, she catalogued reactions, noting weaknesses, predicting patterns, and preparing mentally for what was coming. I didn't flinch. I just watched as the cracks in their composure began to appear. The lawyer's voice cut through the tense air, deliberate and heavy with formality. All properties, accounts, and assets are hereby granted to my son. The words landed like stones, echoing through the silent room. The golden child brother's grin widened, confident, anticipating the expected reaction: shock, anger, maybe even tears. Parents nodded subtly, keeping a practiced neutral expression. But their eyes flickered with the faintest hint of expectation. Whispers passed quietly among extended family. Curiosity and surprise mixing with subtle judgment. The protagonist's mind raced, noting every nuance, the overconfidence in her brother's posture, the rehearsed neutrality of her parents, the small signs of tension in cousins who thought themselves discreet. Inside, disbelief sparked, but outwardly, she remained calm. A controlled smile curved her lips, soft yet deliberate. She didn't argue. She didn't flinch. She only observed, cataloguing manipulation, noting patterns, storing every detail for the moment that would come later. Retention line, end of section. Everything I thought I knew flipped in an instant, and I simply smiled. Soft whispers floated across the room, barely audible yet sharp enough to cut through the tense atmosphere. The brother leaned toward a cousin, chuckling, guess she'd just smile again. Like always, a sly, condescending grin danced across his face, expecting her to remain passive, predictable, and harmless. Parents added their passive-aggressive remarks, carefully coated in syrupy praise, praising her patience and self-restraint. The protagonist felt every jab, every subtle insult, but she stayed composed. Her hands rested neatly in her lap, her posture immaculate, her smile polite but controlled. Inside, a storm brewed anger, frustration, and hurt collided, but she held it all back, knowing that this very restraint was her strength. Every whisper, every glance, every small attempt to undermine her was being recorded in her mind, mapped and remembered. The cousins' quiet taunts, the subtle eye rolls, the half-smiles, they all became pieces of a puzzle, small threads revealing the broader pattern of manipulation she had lived with for years. Her patience, once overlooked, now became the foundation of silent power. I smiled, but something inside me snapped, and they had no idea it was just the beginning. After the quiet humiliation, she chose silence. No rebuttal, no argument, just observation. Every gesture, every smirk, every carefully worded remark from her family became data. The lawyer's subtle smirk, her father's small twitch, her mother's carefully neutral face, all catalogued in her mind. She noticed her brother's overconfidence, the way he assumed victory before it was earned. Silence wasn't submission. It was preparation. Each comment, each glance, each whispered insult only sharpened her awareness. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, and underestimated had trained her to read people, to spot patterns, and to predict outcomes. The longer she stayed quiet, the more the family revealed themselves. She didn't flinch. She didn't react. She watched. Every smirk, every subtle jab, every hint of manipulation fed the strategy forming in her mind. Power wasn't in shouting or confrontation, it was in patience, observation, and timing. Silence isn't weakness. It's preparation, and they had no idea what was coming next. After cataloguing every move, she finally spoke. Calm, measured, and precise, she asked the lawyer to clarify a clause in the will. Her voice didn't tremble. It didn't rise. She highlighted inconsistencies, pointed out hidden intentions, and revealed contradictions no one had noticed. The room froze. Her brother's smug grin faltered. Her parents' neutral expressions wavered. The quiet, calculated questions exposed the cracks in the family's assumed control. Every assumption they had about her compliance, every expectation that she would silently accept, now dissolved in the weight of her calm intelligence. No shouting, no dramatics, just clarity, just truth. Each word she spoke shifted the balance of power. The subtle exposure worked like a mirror, reflecting their arrogance back at them, and they couldn't ignore it. I didn't need to shout. The truth spoke for itself, and the room knew it. The silence that followed her subtle exposure weighed heavy on the room. Her brother slouched, cheeks flushed, his confidence crumbling. Her parents carefully maintained neutrality cracked, revealing the discomfort they had tried to hide. The family realized their old tactics guilt-tripping, subtle mockery, and assumed compliance no longer worked. She asserted her boundaries clearly, calmly, without raising her voice. Nothing forced, nothing exaggerated, her dignity intact. Every subtle jab, every whisper of manipulation, now met with composed observation rather than reaction. The quiet authority she wielded carried more weight than any outburst ever could. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice served through intelligence, patience, and calm observation. She had turned years of underestimation and silent frustration into a moment of undeniable control. Her family had underestimated her composure, and now they understood. Strength isn't loud or aggressive. True strength isn't yelling. It's calm, patient observation. What would you have done in her place?